Welcome back to another video. I'm outside again in the dark. You know, I told you all it's still hot over here. What's today? Today is Wednesday, September 30th. So I'm heading to the discount store to buy a couple of things. I'm alone. I didn't bring my daughter with me. So this evening I would like to speak about steps I took to make hijra. The steps I took to make hijra. Of course, we have to go in history a little bit. Those of you who have been Muslim your whole lives, those who were Muslim majority of their lives, and were in the community, any Islamic community in the United States, know that in the late 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, Hijrah was the anthem. We were being taught about Hijrah, migration from the Muslim lands, from the lands of the non-Muslims to the Muslim lands. We were educated about this, the importance of it, but the issue was many of us were left alone to try to figure it out. There was no blueprint on how to do it, and many times it was coupled with studying. It was synonymous with studying, as a matter of fact. And going overseas to study and making hijrah, migrating, is two separate affairs. A person should study no matter where he is on the earth, but seeking talib al-ilm, or trying to be a student of knowledge and gain knowledge, is a separate affair. It's not one of them. Each of them has their own right and their own time that has to be taken, and plans to carry each affair out. So, excuse me, I'm walking past, sorry. So with that being said, I would like to address how I was able to, how I arrived at where I am now. So I embarked upon the first level that everybody was upon in 2001, which was going to study. But of course, who I was married to at the time, we coupled it with studying. So we went to Yemen. You know how it is. Those of you who have gone to Yemen or gone to Egypt, you come with enough money just to eat and to pay your rent. That's what we did. Of course, that didn't last. I'm going to give you the concise version. I'm not going to go into all of the details. So we went to Yemen. I stayed there. Well, actually, I went to Egypt first. And then a month and a half, 2 months later, I went to Yemen, 2001. And then I returned in 2002. I returned to the United States in 2002. Those who know me know my story and what happened during that time. Then I stayed in the United States. I regrouped, stayed in the United States, I believe, for about 4 years. And we tried Egypt again. But I learned from my first time trying to go over, not having a means of income, I learned that you have to have a means of income. So I started a shoe business in 2006 that would sustain me by Allah's permission. But of course I was young, and that was a little faulty. It wasn't very well planned out. Unforeseen circumstances happened. I stayed in Egypt almost a year, and we had to come back due to a few things, actually. So left Egypt, Came back to the United States in the middle of a pandemic in 2008. I went to Egypt in 2007, came back 2008 due to unforeseen circumstances. Excuse the dark. Excuse me again for the dark. But we're walking and talking. My apologies. So, came back in the middle of a pandemic, had to get a job. Of course, my spouse also had to get a job. We stayed in the United States for another 4 years, but I must mention, while I was in Egypt, I met a sister. There was an older sister there that I met at a gathering, and her husband were actually living in the United Arab Emirates. And in that gathering, she informed me about the free zones and doing business here in the United Arab Emirates. So I was very interested in that. Once I got back to the United States, I looked up all of the information I could on the internet, and I gathered all of my details. But the most important thing is your spouse has to be on the same page as you. So it wasn't time to head to UAE. So what I did was I decided to teach English so that I could enter into the Gulf region to find out what it's like over here for business. I have been on the path of business since 2006, and I knew from my previous experience going to Yemen and not having any means of income that you have to have something when you go over the next time. So I wasn't prepared, nor did I have the means to create a business in Saudi Arabia. So I decided to teach English in order to enter the market to see what exactly they were missing. Where would I fit? Where would my shoe business fit? How could I offer something new? Did they have what I was offering? And alhamdulillah, I come to find out they did not have what I was offering. So that's a plus for me. But it was a strategy move. I never planned on teaching English forever. I came there with my shoe book. For those who know me, when I was selling shoes, when I first started, I had a shoe catalog that I printed out myself, and I used to order shoes according to customer order. So I came, showed the Saudis my shoes. I was teaching them about brands, asking them that they know this brand and that brand, and they were like, no, we didn't know, we don't know who that is. I'm like, perfect. So did that, I taught in Saudi for 2 years. I did not plan on staying in the English field. My husband stayed in the English field. He's currently still in the English field. And I have continued doing business and increasing my knowledge in business. So I came back to the United States. Oh, I'm missing dates. So 2011, I went to Saudi Arabia after I finished my English course, English as a second language certification. I went to Saudi to teach and came back after 2 years because they tried to kill me. I had so many students, they had to make your head spin. They literally gave me about 250 to 500 students. First year, 250 students. Second year, 500 students. I almost died. But alhamdulillah, that's the English game. You never know what's going to hit you. So I left there 2013, came back to the United States, and prepared my plan to come to the UAE. Actually, any country actually in the Gulf region I was trying to come to. We found ourselves in UAE because it was the easiest, but we tried to gain information on Bahrain. Is this where I'm coming? Yes. Okay, this is what's this place? Dreamland Discount Center. Okay, so I'm going to continue this video when I come out, but let me just say this. I put my plan in place when I came back to the United States. My husband left and went to Kuwait, and I was in the United States with my children. I sent him on his way and told him we made a plan before we came back to the United States. I told him, go to Kuwait or go wherever, Bahrain, any country you choose surrounding Saudi. Explore, gain your, experience, increase your resume. Because if we stay in the United States, the money that we have is going to get spent, and you know how difficult it is to get out. So that was my sacrifice. I told him, leave me, you go. And at least there would be hope that we would get back out, by the permission of Allah. So that's what I have for now. And I will continue from there when I come out of the store. Okay, I'm back. Alright, so where did I leave off? Saudi. Oh yeah, when I came back to the United States. So came back to the United States. You know what? I think I want to take another path. Yeah. Came back to the United States, and I was actually homeschooling my children. I moved to an area in Philadelphia that wasn't so great, and I couldn't, I wasn't going to send my children to school, so I homeschooled them. But then I realized after 1 year or so that I wouldn't be able to fully develop a plan being preoccupied with homeschooling. So what I did was, after 2 years in that neighborhood, I decided to move. And I'm going to give you a little backstory on that decision and that thinking. So in Saudi, of course, we were renting an apartment. In America, I'm used to living in houses and comfortable homes, and paying reasonable rent, nothing expensive. However, you're not living in the best neighborhoods with reasonable rent. You can have a nice house, but you're not in the best areas. And when I was in Saudi, this is the backstory. When I was in Saudi and I was speaking with some of my colleagues, some of my fellow teachers who were fawning over the West, speaking about, my sister's there, and that's my dream to go to the United States and things like that. And they were wondering why I came to Saudi. Of course, they're not thinking about hijra. They're not thinking about it from an Islamic standpoint. I'm teaching, so they're like, oh, you came over here for work. Why'd you come here? You're from the United States. So I would warn the teachers and tell them, no, don't go there. There's, a lot of corruption. There's shootings and people dying and things like that. And the teachers would look at me. They were Egyptian, Pakistani, Filipino, from different places. And I had to stop myself after a while because they had counter stories. They were like, well, no, my uncle, he lives in Minnesota. He lives in California. My sister lives in New York, but we already know, and this is something that I forgot, that the foreigners, or the Arab, Pakistanis, all of them, they don't come to urban areas when they come to the United States. Barely. You know, some of them, I think in New York they do. But New York is a melting pot, so it's a little different. But in Philadelphia, the foreigners go to the Northeast. So that was my thinking. I said, you know, I have to go to the Northeast. If I ever go back to the United States, this is me in Saudi, I have to go to the Northeast of Philadelphia, because I realized in those circumstances, me explaining those things to the teachers and warning them, I realized in that moment I was running. I rushed. Each time I rushed out of the United States, you know, very desperate due to my circumstances and my environment. I was trying to save my children from a corrupted area. I was trying to save myself from seeing corruption and hearing corruption daily. And when you're desperate, you make rash decisions, and it doesn't allow for planning well, because you have no real serenity. You know, you don't have ease of heart and mind. So I said, I'm going to be quiet and stop telling on myself and letting them know where I was living, because these people are not going to where I come from, where I've been living rather. I can't say that I grew up around a lot of shooting. As a young person, I did live close to down like 2 blocks from Center City, what would be considered Center City, like South Street. And so I wasn't subjected to a lot of things growing up that I found myself subjected to as an adult when I moved out on my own. You know, being married, you don't necessarily keep the same standards due to certain, marrying certain people, but I won't get into all of that either. Anyways, so I decided that when I'll go back to the United States, my husband's going to leave. So that gives us an opportunity to get out. Inshallah, his boots on the ground overseas, learning more information. And I will work my end in America. And 2 years in that neighborhood, I sent my son to the suburbs with my mother so that he would have a chance and, to be safe. And he went to school in the suburbs. Which area was that? The county. Montgomery County. Lower Marion, Upper Marion. He was in Upper Marion, yeah. And then I moved to the Northeast with my girls. And I was able to plan. I dropped the homeschooling and I started working on my own shoe brand, my own footwear. I stopped, trying to sell other people's brands from the advice of my mother. She told me, you need to learn how to make shoes. I'm like, that's unrealistic. So I did the next best thing. And that's how I got into creating my own shoes. Now, when it comes to UAE, how we came to UAE, we actually went through a series of countries. Like I said, my husband was in Kuwait. We were trying to go to Bahrain. We were trying to gather as much information as possible. So I felt like a yo-yo. As long as I was in one of these countries that was close to Saudi, that was the goal. So finally, when my husband, he couldn't figure it out, I still had all of that UAE information. I must mention also, we did get a business license in Saudi Arabia. We lost a lot of money. There's a lot of sacrifices went into this whole project. And I will talk about sacrifices in another video, but I'm just giving a summary of my journey. We lost money on the Saudi license, a lot of money. We came to UAE in 2016, got a license here, our first license in the UAE. Lost that one the next year, subhanallah. And alhamdulillah, last year, when I came with the children, we got our second license, and I'm thankful to Allah we were able to renew. And I asked Allah to keep us here. It was my business. My husband came and established the license, but he's a teacher, and he needed me to be here to do the business. Things didn't work out. He had to go back to Saudi to work, and he couldn't make it back in time to renew the license. And UAE is very strict on their dates. When you renew, they will close you down. And that's what happened to us. It wasn't an issue of money. It was an issue of time. It was an issue of coordination, a lot of things. So, lesson learned, you have to be here. You cannot open up a license and then go somewhere else and not be able to come back and handle your business. So that's a summary of my journey to Hijrah. I kept going. I never stopped. And I stayed motivated. One of the ways I stayed motivated was when I left Saudi, I told myself I have to connect myself with the Arab world or I will get distracted. Okay? Every time I came back from overseas, I was never around Muslims from Muslim countries to be reminded of overseas. Even though I was like, I gotta get out, I have to get back out. It really helps when you are reminded daily. And I see that in my WhatsApp group. I have a WhatsApp app group called Hijrah Emirates as well that I started back in February. And I provide the group with news from the UAE and surrounding countries. And they benefit from it. It keeps them in the loop. You know, you need to see something in order to stay motivated. Everyone doesn't have the drive and the zeal to stay focused, especially when you're in the West. You're bombarded with everyday life there. It can often seem like I'll never get out. You know, I just give up. And that's all from Shaitan. Shaitan wants us to think that. And I know that happens to people. But my purpose of staying connected to the Arab world was to keep up with my Arabic, because I didn't want to lose that. And I also wanted to become more native speaking instead of very textual. I didn't want to just be textual Arabic. I wanted to become more native. So I created an Instagram account for my fashion in all Arabic hashtags, so that I can interact with the Islamic world, with the Arab world rather. And that was beneficial. I also started to look at Arab vloggers. It's a whole Arab world out here. So that kept me connected. I needed to see the streets. That was my motivation. You know how people have vision boards? I had that, connection with watching those people on Instagram, laughing with them, learning a lot of new words and phrases. I learned a lot. I got a lot of perspective. When you enter their world, you learn a lot about them. And I really appreciate that experience, and I'm grateful that I decided to do that. It gave me a lot of insight, a lot of ideas as well. So yeah, that kept me motivated, and I keep the same system in the group. Of course, I don't share anything Arabic, of course, because many people, they don't speak Arabic. But anything that can help you, it's my advice, help you stay motivated, then that's what you should do. You whatever you need to do, searching up information. If you want to join the WhatsApp group, you can. It's not an Islamic group, so we don't share like Islamic information unless it's basic, like Eid greetings and things like that, just to keep down any confusion or fitna, because you know how groups can be. But know that you're able to leave if you put your mind to it. In another video, I will speak about some of the ways and ideas that women who are single can come over, as well as couples, families, whatever your circumstance is. I'll make another video about that. But for now, I'm almost home. That's all I have. This is a building, a new building. When it's done, then I'll make a tour of this building, actually see what apartments they have in here. So for now, I'm going to log off. For now, I'm going to sign off, and I will see you all in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I appreciate you all watching. And please support my channel. It will be beneficial for us all in the future. There are jobs that can be created just from you all coming here. And I will let you know how to do that as well. Too many opportunities. And inshallah, I'm going to expose them and lay them all out for you. Bi'idhnillah. All right. Signing off.